here. Did you see how everything ended in New York with the Giants on Friday? And Daniel Jones and the Daniel Jones era, for whatever it is. The 4 or 5 years that the Giants spent arguing about whether he was the quarterback franchise of the future before they cut bait.
I think the Giants always knew. The problem was they went to Minnesota, won a playoff game. Daniel Jones played well in that playoff game, and they were kind of forced to sign him to a longer-term deal.
Well, if they always knew, you don't have to do that, and they didn't know, and so they wasted a lot of time on the Daniel Jones era. But Daniel Jones was really classy about the whole thing, and then when I'm leaving on Friday, Mike, because we obsess over our quarterbacks, as I'm saying goodbye for the weekend, Mike, is Daniel Jones waived. And now he's available to a variety of teams that maybe he could resurrect it with. But he was very kind in the way that he read a letter and said goodbye and handled it all, I think, with grace. And so Daniel Jones had a career where he made a lot of money and had very little success and somehow leaves New York kind of unscathed. And so Elle Duncan was making fun of, I guess, the way that he read his goodbye to the fans at a press conference. And let's hear that sound.
Normally reserved taking the L for Fridays, but Giants quarterback Daniel Jones just did something so inexplicable that we made an exception. After being benched this week, Jones took to the podium to say goodbye to the franchise and fans, but with like 7 games left in the season.
All right, I wrote something down just to make sure I say it the right way.
I'm sorry, you have to write this down? Didn't you go to Duke?
The opportunity to play for the New York Giants was truly a dream come true, and I'm extremely grateful to the Mara and Tisch families for the chance to play here. The Giants are truly a first-class organization, and I have nothing but genuine respect and appreciation for the people who have built it and who helped carry on that tradition. Thank you to all my teammates, coaches, and staff that have done so much for me these past 6 years. Of course, this season has been disappointing for all. I'm excited for the next opportunity. I know that there's a lot of good football in front of me, and I'm excited about that. To all the fans, I have deep respect and appreciation for your passion and love for the Giants. The fans are a huge part of what makes playing for the Giants so special. Thank you.
You guys think he had this saved in his notes since like 2020? In all seriousness, DJ, I could have saved you like 90 seconds. A rewrite. Sorry you paid me $108 million for one playoff win, and I look forward to reviving my career as Brock Purdy's backup. The end.
Not a bad landing spot.
God damn.
So that was the response of Rich Gannon as well on SiriusXM, and I'm curious what Stugotz thinks of everything that I'm putting in front of you here, because Rich Gannon does a show with a gentleman I think named Bruce Murray on SiriusXM.
Murr.
And they were really precious about what Elle had done to Daniel Jones there. They got upset by this. So watch Bruce Murray ask this question of Rich Gannon, former MVP of the league, and then I want to get your thoughts on this back and forth.
You know, we all fall into the trap of going after the lowest hanging fruit. But I take issue with a female on ESPN who goes by the name of Elle Duncan, and I went to her Twitter feed to see if, since this controversy has erupted, if she provided any kind of apology, which she hasn't. You can check her out on Twitter, at Elle Duncan ESPN.
Why bother?
When she went yesterday, and after Daniel Jones produced a heartfelt news conference saying goodbye to the New York Giants, and as you said, Rich, was accountable for the failures that he was part of as he moves on to the next stage of his career, and she decided to mock that. Not just the performance, by the way, on Sunday, but the individual himself, to the point where he said, I wrote these words down because I wanted to make sure I shared them properly. You're emotional. And she said, oh, I thought you went to Duke. You had to write them down? And then she went on to say, I could have simplified it for you. I stole your money or something. I won one playoff game. This is from an organization, by the way, who's firing people left and right. And I wonder how she would take kindly if we made fun of her colleagues that are getting fired right now. I wonder how she would take it if she got fired.
So that was the question that he sent Rich Gannon's way.
I mean, who takes getting fired well?
And here's Rich Gannon to protect as well the precious Daniel Jones.
And, you know, here's a quarterback, Bruce, that came to the Giants, was not an easy situation, went through coaching changes, coordinator changes, system changes. and just hasn't gotten the results. And yet he stood at the podium yesterday, and what a class act. He just basically accepted responsibility for his part in it, said he could do better, he could play better. And then you have somebody, and by the way, I don't know who Elle Duncan is, Bruce. I don't know that anyone even really watches SportsCenter anymore, and so I don't spend a lot of time at that channel. But here's a gal who's obviously never played the game, but she's going to say something really negative and nasty about somebody who just lost their job. I think that they're better than that, and hopefully she gets reprimanded by her bosses there to say this is not who we are.
He also said as they went to break, Rich Gannon said, I'm gonna call Daniel Jones. Give him a call to look
at me, Louie.
I'm all for it. Let's be more gentle with the athletes, sure. But Daniel Jones is where we're going to start with it. It was awfully soft. He was terrible as their expectations quarterback. He won a playoff game, and they gave him a ton of money. And did you see what Saquon Barkley did last night?
Now, if Barkley's still with the Giants, it wouldn't make a difference. But your larger point is.
But I'm just surprised by the amount of holding him like a Fabergé egg when I didn't think we got that in that market. Since 2017, the teams that have lost the most in that sport are the Giants and the Jets. Mm-hmm. He was drafted very high. He was an unpopular pick. He was thought to be a reach, and he wasn't a very good quarterback who ended up getting a good amount of money that at least in part is the reason that Saquon Barkley now plays for your division rival. It was a disaster. I'm all for let's be more gentle. I'm just surprised that he reads a letter and that's what gets gentle.
He won a playoff game that unfortunately set the Giants franchise back about a decade. But he is being treated well on the way out. Dan, he's doing this at the same time that Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback and making a stink of everything in this city, and Daniel Jones just flying under the radar. He knows the fans aren't happy. He knows the organization's not happy, and yet he still found it within himself to step up to a podium and deliver it. He wrote it down. That's fine. Went to Duke. I understand the shot there. But he wrote it down, and he gave a heartfelt apology about a team that has been very good to him. And so I think that kind of stands out.
Billy questioned the heartfelt.
When you write it down, it's
put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is it heartfelt when you're reading it?
And when I heard what Elle did, which, by the way, happened before Daniel Jones got cut, everything that we actually experienced there all happened before Daniel Jones was actually cut on Friday, which does provide some interesting detail here. What Elle did there is what Stugotz does on our show routinely. Routinely. I think also part of this is that it's Elle that is getting this reaction, and there was certainly some there was a little bit of extra seasoning on what the two gentlemen had to say about Elle there, and I don't think that someone like Stugotz ever encounters that kind of criticism.
Exactly. Just plainly, he just said, there's a female on ESPN by the name of Elle. You could have just said Elle Duncan.
They also said a gal.
Who never played the game.
This is the part we're talking about.
But I take issue with a female on ESPN who goes by the name of Elle Duncan.
She could just be by Elle Duncan on ESPN.
Well, the question is, what if Randy Moss said it? What if someone else said it? What if Rex Ryan said it? What if a guy said it?
And intentionally gave out her social media handle so his listeners can force feed hate her way.
I'm just still surprised, though, at the precious taking care of the Giants quarterback. That's not what Eli Manning played under in terms of scrutiny. The franchise, New York football, is the worst in the sport. Let me explain to you what it is, if I may, that we're presently watching with the Detroit Lions, because 20 years before Greg Cody was born, they were also 10-1. The Detroit Lions are ruling that sport with the positive story, Stugotz, of dragging everybody. They're the worst franchise in the history of the sport. In our adult lives, there has been no worse franchise in football than the Detroit Lions. They've got the best team in football. And over the last 8 years, the thing that has lost the most in the sport is the Giants and the Jets. The Jets are an international laughingstock. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be put on IR here, according to Diana Rossini, or benched in the next couple of games.
Or released also came up as a thing, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Is Ryan Tannehill never going to play again? Because like everyone's just, Ryan Tannehill's going to come in, he's going to take over a team at the end of the year, he's going to lead them into the playoffs. It's like, well, no, now people are going to be fighting over Daniel Jones and possibly Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Tannehill just waiting for the right opportunity.
He waited too long.
Yeah, he did, actually. Now Daniel Jones is out there. It's like,
right, with the Niners.